Growing up, my family always had wine on the table with dinner. So when we moved to California, my uncle moved to San Francisco and sort of bought a vineyard as a weekend getaway. It was kind of to keep the tradition going of making wine in the family. My grandfather, even though he lived in Chicago most of his life, made wine in his basement in Chicago. He and some of the neighborhood Italian guys would get together and buy some grapes from California. They'd each make a little wine in the basement and then hang around in the alley tasting each other's wines for fun. My grandparents on my father's side actually emigrated to the United States in the early 1900s from Iran, and my grandparents are of Assyrian descent. So the Assyrians, like the Armenians, were kind of a Christian tribe from the Middle East. Theoretically, the Assyrians and Mesopotamians sort of discovered fermentation. So they were sort of the earliest winemakers, which is why a lot of the large format bottles in wine are named after Assyrian kings, Nebuchadnezzar, Salmanasar, Balthazar. So there's a lot of sort of winemaking tradition in the Assyrian family, and that's why our logo is the Assyrian sun god, Shamash. My uncle Bob Miner actually was the one who got me into the wine business. Bob and I were always big wine drinking buddies, and he was one of the founders of the software company Oracle. And so when I got out of college, he got me an interview in the sales department at Oracle, and I got a job right out of college selling software for Oracle and living in the Bay Area. And so I spent my weekends up here in Napa with him. He bought Oakville Ranch in the late 80s and started making wine, and he and I would play tennis together and drink wine and have great meals with he and his wife and family, and they'd have lots of friends come up, and it was just a great celebration of Napa, of wine and food and good friends. And that's just a tradition that's always been in my family, even on the Scottish-Irish side on my mom's side. But that's kind of was my introduction to wine making, not just wine collecting or wine drinking. Unfortunately, at the time, my uncle was also ill. He had mesothelioma, which is a form of lung cancer, and so he wasn't doing well, and it was kind of an impetus for me to say, you really need to do something that you love to do for a living, because life can be very short. So that was a real motivation for me to jump and do this and sort of have much more of a passion about what I do for a living. Have a little fun in my life.